Let's begin by saying that this idea for this episode sort of came up because we take an interest in
true crime,
right? And one of the things that I found immensely interesting is poisoners, because there's usually a very distinct motivation with poisoning people, and it stems from sort of different places that violent crimes stem from. You know, like when you think of serial killers, you don't think of, oh, the guy that slipped 20 people something in their coffee and they all died. You think of
really violent acts.
Right. Very targeted, that have sort of a sexual reason behind them.
Yeah, true.
Poisoners, in my opinion, are very interesting. I'm not sure I made it clear where my case, the person involved in the case I covered today, had their motivation.
Maybe we can just analyze and deduct from what the story will be.
Right. The fact that poison is considered to be the first choice for many murders, especially in the Victorian era, and mainly by women. It's very popular among female killers.
Yeah.
Due to many reasons, mostly because it's very practical, and women have this thing of not making a mess. But I found, before I begin, I found this case that I found super interesting, because you sort of think about, oh, poisoners, well, okay, that means that it was deliberate. Someone wanted to kill somebody. But I found this case, the Bradford sweet poisoning in 1858, where more than 200 people were poisoned. 20 people died due to buying sweets that were accidentally made with arsenic that were sold in Bradford. And I thought it was very interesting because at that time sugar was sort of seen, if you don't know, arsenic has a sweet taste.
Right. Wasn't arsenic used in makeup and making women look pale?
I think so.
Yeah, it was like a cosmetic thing, even though it was bloody deadly.
I think so. I think it's been used in a lot of things before actually realizing how dangerous it was. But I sort of think, because I wrote about a killer that lived in ancient Rome, and it was known back then that arsenic could be used as a poison. So at the time, sugar was considered to be a luxury, because I think the British Empire was able to get it only from India, and it was rather expensive. And due to the fact that it raised in popularity, it also became taxed.
Oh,
so
sugar
it was
tax.
already right. So it was already expensive, and then you had to pay a huge tax to get it. So what people used to do was sort of dilute it with something else.
Oh my god.
The point of the story is that it wasn't meant to be diluted with arsenic. It was a mistake made at the pharmacy, because that's where it was this thing called daft, which was harmless, and you would get it at the pharmacy. But they both look the same. They're just white powder. So everything was labeled wrong. And the baker sort of bought by mistake. He was given the arsenic, and the sweets reportedly contained enough arsenic to kill 2 people per humbug. Humbug are these particular sweets that they were making. It's just a piece of candy.
Oh my god, so if like you split that in two, like one candy, like if we shared that candy, we would have been dead.
Probably. Well, it's reported that 200 people were poisoned. 20 people died. So perhaps you could make it. I'm not entirely sure how that works. But 20-30 years later, the sugar tax was abolished and sugar became affordable.
So people won't look for alternatives.
So these problems didn't happen anymore. I think they arrested the candy maker at that time, but it was just a mistake. They couldn't. I thought it was interesting due to the fact that it was an accidental poisoning, sort of more tragic.
True, yeah, because there wasn't like anyone at fault on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wrote today about Locusta.
Where is she from?
Ancient Rome.
Oh shit. I forgot.
Locusta.
Locusta.
Locusta of Gaul. She was a Roman herbalist and a professional poisoner.
AKA a witch.
She was called a witch at the time. Well, she was called many things. So she is considered to be one of the most infamous in classical history. In ancient Rome, poisons were a very common weapon, heavily used to secure political power. You would kill your opponent, you would get rid of competition. It was so popular that emperors hired food tasters, people that would taste their food to make sure that it wasn't poisoned.
Is that where they come from? Like food tasters? Well, not now, because you have wine tasters. But like I've heard the notion of a food taster.
Right.
Oh, makes sense.
Usually they were also the cooks. The cooks would also taste the food before the emperor would start eating. So poison makers were also in high demand. Locusta grew up in the countryside, which made her very skilled in herbology. She was hired as the official poisoner of the imperial court and became the favorite of Emperor Nero's, which, if you know anything about your Roman history, Emperor Nero is considered to be one of the history's greatest criminals. His name is actually synonymous with evil. If you call someone Nero, you imply that they are very cruel and evil. And he was accused of killing his stepbrother, his wife, his mother, as well as persecuted Christians, and is also believed to have instigated the devastating Great Fire of Rome. Right, he was a dick.
Yeah.
Nero was a dick. So Locusta had a reputation, so she was thrown in prison before she became the chief poisoner for accusations of murder, obviously. So she was thrown in prison many times. The third time, however, she was thrown in prison, she was bailed out by the Empress herself. Empress Agrippina.
Was she like, I'ma bail you out if you do me this favor? You know what
exactly.
I mean? Yes.
Exactly. Empress Agrippina, who was Nero's mother.
Oh, the plot thickens.
Made Locusta her poisons expert because she was looking into murdering her husband, Claudius, who at the time was the emperor of the empire. Locusta did what she was asked. She produced a poison to kill Claudius, which was sprinkled on mushrooms at his dinner. Now, sources vary. It was either sprinkled on his mushrooms, or it might have been a poisoned mushroom.
Oh no.
That killed him.
Yeah, probably they were like, oh, I heard someone poisoned his mushrooms, and someone else was like, no, the mushroom was poisoned.
Right, they were confused even back then. What the fuck killed this guy?
Yeah.
We'll never know. But the problem was that the poison wasn't strong enough to kill him. Well, it wasn't strong enough to kill him immediately.
They didn't choose the right mushrooms.
So he was finished off by his doctor, which I found to be fascinating because to me it says that Claudius was such a big dick that his doctor was like, no, fuck this guy. So what they did, he used this feather and he dipped it in poison and he sort of stuck it into Claudius's throat. And I think it was a medical practice. He was trying to, I don't know, maybe make him vomit or something because it was supposed to help him. But because he dipped it in poison, well, the guy died.
So did the doctor want to kill him or to save him?
He plotted with the Empress Agrippina to kill Claudius.
Ah, okay.
That's what I was saying. I think Claudius was also a dick, if so many people wanted him dead. So what happened next was that Locusta was actually charged with killing the emperor, and she was thrown in prison.
Again.
Right. Which I do find interesting how she was thrown in prison before. She was the masters of poisons.
They didn't really have a great system back in the day, did they?
Right.
It's like oh, but the Empress is bailing her out, so I guess we have to. Yeah.
Did they know she was a poisoner? How did this work?
I mean, if it was some, like, the guards or whatever officer actually let her out, maybe he didn't actually keep the evidence of all the prisoners like we do now.
Ah, maybe. Sure. That could be. We couldn't identify her.
Maybe, yeah, she changed her identity. I don't know.
No, I don't think she changed her name.
No, like, maybe she cut her hair or something, grew a mustache.
So she was thrown in prison, but Nero, who was, well, after Claudius's death, he was crowned emperor. He was only 16 at the time.
Did the mom actually want that for her son, or?
Yes, she did. That was the main reason why she killed her husband. She wanted her son to be emperor.
Sounds very familiar. It's like I've seen this in Game of Thrones.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? Is that like the inspiration?
I think so. Awful things have happened in history. Mr. Martin is a very creative man, but he's not that creative. So Nero bailed her out because he had some assassinations plans as well.
His mother.
No, he didn't want to kill his mother. Well, not yet. But he was very worried about his brother's claim to the throne.
Why? Wasn't he the oldest one?
Well, he was. Britannicus, his brother, was 14. But Britannicus was his half-brother. Nero wasn't the son of Claudius. His mother married the emperor and she already had Nero. So technically, Britannicus was the true son of the emperor. I don't think... Because I know Nero was adopted by the emperor, which technically makes him legitimate. So he wasn't a bastard, but he wasn't the emperor's son. Some poisons used in the ancient Rome were belladonna, commonly known as deadly nightshade, henbane, datura, mandrake, and they were commonly used in assassinations. These were herbal poisons, but animal poisons were also used. However, they were not so popular because they were pretty difficult to obtain. Like, how many snakes did you have to catch? And to make sure none of them bite you in order to obtain
the venom.
Right. They were used, but they were rarely used. Mineral poisons like mercury, copper, and lead were very rarely used. However, arsenic was very popular. I think, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure whether ancient Romans knew how toxic lead was, because I think they also had plates and cutlery made out of lead.
Yeah, I'm pretty much sure they did.
Which is a very bad idea. And to be fair, maybe it could explain their behavior in a way, because lead has this...
Does it make you go cuckoo?
Reputation of making you go a little...
That's why everyone wanted to kill each other back in the day. So they're eating lead.
They were pretty violent and they had this bloodlust. Remember the Colosseum of, let's see people kill each other. Let's see lions kill people. Let's see gladiators fucking killing every animal in the kingdom. Romans were very weird. They were very advanced people, but they were also very, very cruel, which maybe you can attribute it to some lead poisoning.
And all the shit they were eating. I mean, for sure there would have been other stuff they were eating.
Right, perhaps. So, he bails her out. So, on the first try to assassinate Britannicus, Locusta used arsenic for killing him, but the assassination failed because she didn't use enough.
How can you not use enough?
Well, you don't know how much she had. Maybe she couldn't get any more.
Yeah, maybe he was a big boy and he needed more.
Maybe it was too easy to detect. I don't know how arsenic works, so it's probably safer to use as little as you can. So, because she failed, Nero personally flogged her and ordered her to start testing her poisons on slaves, animals, and convicted criminals to assure that the next time she would try to kill him, she would actually kill him. So she did. She managed to poison Britannicus at the family dinner. You remember when I told you that they had tasters?
Yes.
Right. So the cook came in and tasted the food and the wine, but he didn't taste the water. Can you guess where she slipped the poison?
In the mushrooms.
God damn it, those mushrooms.
Sorry. Where did she?
Oh, she actually slipped it into the water.
Makes sense. Because the cook didn't taste it.
And, well, this part is a little sad. So the kid drinks the poison.
Kid? Oh, the kid. Yeah, he's 14.
Like, he was 14.
Yeah. Oh.
He falls off his chair and he begins having convulsions. But Nero orders everybody to stay at the table because, well, he said it's not a big deal because the problem was that the kid had epileptic seizures all his life. So
he was like, he'll get through it. It's fine.
Right. And none of that, because he had family at the table.
Oh no.
But none of them were very alarmed because that happened before. He convulsed before in his life. He was an epileptic, and that's very sad. He obviously died.
Yeah.
And Nero was so ecstatic that he gifted Locusta her own estate and her servants. And for 14 years, Locusta took on a lot of assignments, sort of poisonings for hire.
How old was she, like, during the assassination?
She wasn't that young, because when she died, I think she was about almost 70. I think she was 69 or something when she died. She was rather old, especially for that time. So she kind of got away with it because she lived her life.
Damn it, with servants and everything.
So she took a lot of contracts of killing people, whether it was from Nero or any other politician that was paying.
So he was like dealing with the bosses through Nero. So she had access to like really important people booking her, kind of.
Right.
That's why she lived such a long life.
She made a reputation. She was the chief poisoner.
How come no one tried to kill her, like other poisoners, like competition?
I don't know.
She was all good.
Well, it was still a crime. Like, if you would have been found out that you murdered someone, you would still go to prison.
I mean, she did, and she got bailed out.
Yeah, but and she was also the emperor's poisoner.
True. You can't really.
In this time period, she also managed to open a school.
Oh my god. Was she teaching the kids to do that?
Well, I'm not sure if there were kids, but she was teaching others her knowledge of herbs and toxins. So business was booming. I couldn't find any information about other high-profile victims or the exact numbers of victims, but modern sources cite that she killed tens or even hundreds of people. Then you have to take into account that she didn't only kill her targets. She was also killing the people she was experimenting on.
And the tasters.
Poor guys.
Yeah, I mean, imagine having to go to the interview for that job. Oh, I'm here to probably die. You know, how much do you offer per hour? Does it even matter? You're going to die in the end anyway.
Worst
at
job.
least you get to taste really delicious food on the way.
However, all good things come to an end. Good things, well, all things come to an end. And when the Roman state condemned Nero to death for, well, being a piece of shit, Locusta was also condemned. It is reported that Locusta had made Nero a poison kit for himself. So when he had to kill himself based on whatever reason, he could. But because he was an idiot, he forgot it.
You fucking idiot, you had one job.
When he was about to be brought before the Roman Senate to stand trial for his crimes, Nero killed himself with his own dagger, which sounds stupid. I hope he suffered.
Probably. I mean,
thinking that he could have
had a nice quote-unquote death.
Right.
Even though arsenic...
He could have made it easier for himself, but... I'm just gonna stab myself.
But arsenic is not really a nice death either, because it gives you hallucinations, you throw up.
But she was a master of poisonings. I'm pretty sure she didn't make something that would make him suffer.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
So, yep, Nero's an idiot. He died by his own knife. Locusta tried to keep a low profile, but at this point she already had a vast reputation as a professional poisoner, so no longer supported by the emperor, Locusta was executed later that year. She was arrested by Nero's successor, Emperor Galba, and dragged through the streets in chains and executed. A little more Game of Thrones inspiration.
Yeah, because I just kept thinking of Cersei's scene.
Locusta is often called history's first serial killer, though that is disputable based on the fact that she didn't really do it for pleasure. She was doing it for money. So it's sort of the same situation with mob assassins. You don't call them serial killers.
Yeah.
They have a contract to kill. And that's my story for today.
The fact that she lived such a long life, and she wasn't even hired for that many people to kill. Like, how many so it was kind of like a good ending because both of them died. Well, yeah, were convicted and...
Yes, but based on the fact that she didn't die young. She died.
So yeah, that's the sad thing, because she got to live a happy life. And
yeah, she got to live her life. She killed a lot of people, and sure, she had a painful death, but I don't know. That was my poisoner. Tell me about yours.
The poisoner I found really interesting, well, mainly because it was very close to home, and I was like, oh, I never knew that happened in this area where I live, basically. It's a St. Albans, England poisoner.
Is he?
St. Albans, where we went to the cathedral.
Holy shit.
Uh-huh. I had no idea. He was called the teacup poisoner because, you guessed, he poisoned people's teas in teacups.
I think that's even, like, poisoning people, it's a crime, but poisoning an Englishman's tea...
that hurts my kokoro. So he was born in 1947, and he had a sister. His mom died pretty young when he was only 14 weeks old. So then the dad sent him to live with his aunt and uncle. So for the first 3 years of his life, he lived with his uncle and aunt. And then the dad remarried, and he reunited the family. So now it was the stepmother, the dad, him. I didn't even say his name, did I? His name is Graham Frederick Young.
Graham Young.
I'm gonna call him Graham. He was reunited with his dad, stepmom, and sister. And I think when I was looking for like why he started poisoning, it was because he was very attached to his uncle and aunt. And when he got pulled out of that family, when his dad remarried and everything, he was quite affected by that. I think it really shattered him. He was like 3-4 years old.
Oh, he was
really young, but a lot of articles were saying that kind of affected him in a way. So growing up also as a child, well, he was very secluded. He didn't really have friends his age. He was antisocial. So he wasn't a normal child. You know, kids go and play and talk to everyone. He was quite antisocial.
I see.
Once he grew up a little bit and he started to read, he was very, very interested in murder-related readings. So like anything that would describe murders, I guess. He was also very focused on Hitler and again,
always a good sign.
Yeah, and Nazi Germany, and he would wear swastikas and would try to talk to strangers about Hitler and try to...
But wait, forgive me for interrupting you. How would he read about murders?
I don't understand. Yeah, it's maybe
like war murders,
maybe
crimes, like war crimes.
It wasn't really detailed.
Or maybe
what I'm thinking is because it was said he was he was studying a lot, and his dad would buy him books. So he was interested in criminal psychology and criminal behavior and that kind of. So maybe through like study books, he would read about murders that happen.
I see.
Or like fiction, even fiction books that would describe.
That's the first
crimes.
thing I thought about.
Yeah.
And maybe he was reading fiction.
Because he was 10, 12 years old. This was the period when he kind of got more...
But how much, I don't know, gratuitous fiction did you have in... Well, was it 40s?
At this point, it was 50s.
Okay.
Right,
because Hitler.
He was also fascinated with the occult, and he would try to convince his classmates to sacrifice animals for like during occult rituals, and a lot of neighbors' cats went missing.
Oh no.
Yeah, and he was, again, may I remind you, he's 10, 12 years old is when he was doing all these things.
Dude, kill my cat and it's game over for you. I don't care if you're 10 years old.
So, because he was quite a smart child, he went to grammar school, which is a school that selects the students based on their academic achievements. And he was also learning a lot outside of school. He was learning a lot of chemistry, forensic science, and toxicology. So because his dad saw that he was so interested in toxicology and chemistry, he even bought him a chemistry set to experiment with chemicals. Which I'm like, oh my God, Dad. But like, parent...
knowing where this is going.
Exactly. But like...
You're like, Dad, what the hell did you do?
But like, no parent wants to think their child, their 12-year-old is going that route, you know?
Wait, so he actually had nice parents?
From what I'm gathering, yeah. I mean, apart from, there wasn't any mention of the parents being abusive to him or anything.
Okay.
Yeah. This is all that's known. So I haven't read all the articles. I've tried to do my research as much as I could, but the main ones weren't mentioning anything.
It's very interesting because it's usually, well, you do have sort of something that you're born with, but then it gets, let's say, activated
by trauma,
how you're brought up. And that's one of the reasons why criminals have abuse in their childhood.
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't really see much.
No, because based on what I know about him, because I didn't research him, I think I've heard about him in a podcast or something, and I found him very weird due to the fact that he didn't have the cookie cutter criminal background that most criminals have. And he was very loose with his morals. I didn't get where he was coming from. I didn't understand why.
So from here on, his dad was encouraging him with his chemistry experiments. He was reading a lot. He was doing good in school. Obviously, he was...
Dude, can you imagine having a kid and doing your best to encourage them and, oh, little Timmy likes chemistry.
Yeah.
Here, take this little water solution. Put it in the bathtub. Have fun, Timmy. And then Timmy grows up to poison a bunch of people. Fuck you, Timmy.
And kill cats and do sacrifices for the occult. Let's not forget that part as well. He's also 12. Anyway, so he went to a local chemist, and because he knew so much about chemicals and compounds and just toxicology in general, he convinced the chemist he was 17 when he was actually 13. I don't know how.
Oh, I'm sorry. What a fucking idiot that chemist was.
Do you look at the 13-year-old and say that he's 17? I really don't understand.
Maybe he was very, very tall.
I don't know. So he started then... Oh, I didn't tell you what he got. So he got antimony, a metal that was used as medicine and in makeup in ancient times.
Oh.
Sounds familiar. He also got
some more makeup that would kill you.
He got thallium and arsenic. And he first started poisoning one of his classmates. Christopher Williams was the name of his classmate. And he survived.
At 13?
Yes. It was a chemistry classmate. And he survived, and because he was poisoning this little his classmate, and he was kind of getting frustrated because the classmate had to stay at home to get well, and he couldn't monitor him. He couldn't see his reaction to the poisons he was giving him, and he kind of got annoyed, and he was like, you know what? I can't really monitor my subjects, so let me just do this experiment, quote unquote, on someone that I can monitor. So then he started poisoning his family, because then he could actually monitor them because he lived with them.
Oh, right, because I remember he had this book where he wrote about
so
how it would...
He would have this notebook where he would write down his, like the subjects, as he would call them, their reaction to what poison, how would they react, how much dosage he was giving them. It's really dark because he's really detached. Like, he's not actually seeing them as people. Because at that point, you're just doing this and you're just focusing on reactions to the poison. You're not actually thinking, I'm poisoning these people.
Right, they're just like lab rats.
Completely detached. Yeah, lab rats. Yeah. He started by poisoning his stepmother because I'm guessing he didn't really maybe feel that bad because she wasn't related to him. I'm just assuming here. It wasn't written about this anywhere.
It makes sense. She was also the reason why he couldn't live with his
aunt and uncle, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. Makes sense.
Maybe he held animosity towards her.
And the symptoms she would suffer was vomiting, stomach pain, and diarrhea.
Yeah, oh God.
Yeah, and then his dad thought that he was being careless with his chemistry. And like this was an accident that she got ill. And he never once like suspected that he was doing this on purpose.
Oh, wait, so they found out that in some manner she must have been poisoned?
It was constant. She was feeling ill constantly. So you put two and two together that he's playing with his chemicals in the house and then she gets sick.
Oh.
And also because so slowly all of them started getting the symptoms as well as Graham, which is not clear if he was doing it on purpose to blend in. Like, oh...
Yeah, was he poisoning himself?
I think he was just being a dumbass and he maybe sipped something from the teacup that was meant for someone else. And that's what
maybe
a lot
he was genuinely curious. He wanted...
Maybe.
Maybe he tested it on his stepmom to see if I use like this certain amount, she doesn't die. So it's safe for me to also take it and see what it feels like. Maybe it was just curiosity.
Maybe it was curiosity, yeah. So then in 1961, his sister, Graham's sisters, got really ill after her brother made the tea and served her tea. And she only took a sip because she said it tasted like sour.
Oh.
And then she probably told the dad and the dad got a red flag. And then he was like, oh no, actually, I think it's her fault because she was just mixing shampoo in that teacup and she forgot to wash it and she put tea in it. And the dad was like, all right, whatever. That's weird. And again, it just went. Maybe because he was so good in school, he was like, he can't do any wrong. Because you know how some parents are like just blinded by the fact that their kids do well in school, therefore they can't be assholes.
Well, he doesn't sound like he was making any trouble, to be honest. Like, it wasn't just that he had good grades. He
was quiet.
He was also a pretty good kid. Yeah, he was quiet. He didn't fight or do anything violent or typical for teenage boys. And he had this huge interest in a science that was, to be fair, I would probably be very proud of my kid if he was like that. And it's very admirable for a kid that young to have such a huge passion.
For complicated sciences, yeah. I agree, yeah.
Yeah. I
wouldn't bat an eye. I'd be like, you go you. I don't know where you're getting your intelligence from because it's not from me.
If he wasn't abused, then Dad sounds like a stand-up dude to me.
So Graham's sister actually ended up going to the hospital and the doctors, because she was having hallucinations.
Oh, what did he give her?
And, he gave her belladonna.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, on Easter Saturday in 1962, Graham's stepmother actually died of thallium poisoning. But at the time, the poisoning wasn't discovered because Graham suggested to cremate her body. So the doctors thought it was because of a prolapsed cervical disc that she got from a previous car accident.
I'm sorry, can you die from that?
From a prolapsed cervical disc?
Right. Can you die from it?
I hope not, because I have a herniated disc. So Graham has been trying to kill her for a while, sadly. And because he was giving her the same amount of belladonna, I'm guessing, her body grew resistance to it. Mm-hmm. So he thought that in order to speed up the process, he gave her arsenic.
Oh my God, that's so scary. Can you imagine that lady?
Oh no, actually wait. He gave her thallium.
That lady was in pain and she was vomiting and shitting herself for what? Weeks? How much did it pass since he began poisoning her? up to the moment she died.
A long time, yeah.
She had such an elongating death process.
And it doesn't end there, because even at her funeral, there were reports saying that people were throwing up and everything.
What the fuck?
He was just a fucking dumbass. He was
Dude,
just an
it's
idiot.
just a funeral. Calm down.
Then Dad got sent to the hospital because of antimony poisoning.
No, Dad.
And if he would have taken another dose, he would have died.
Holy shit.
So far the stepmother is dead. But no one knows that he killed him. He killed her at this point.
So I kind of get the stepmother. Well, I get why he would have had issues with the stepmother, but his dad?
I don't think he was feeling anything for his family at this point.
What's up with this guy?
Now, his aunt, because I'm thinking they were still in touch. So his aunt and science teacher started getting a bit suspicious on Graham, because he was very passionate about chemicals and he was probably just constantly talking. Remember, he's constantly talking about Hitler, toxins and chemicals, right? I mean, I would be suspicious too. Fucking hell. And the teacher found poison in his school desk, like poison vials.
Oh, he was a dumbass.
He was a dumbass. That's what I'm telling you. At that point, the teacher contacted the headmaster and he was like, look what we found.
Really? Oh, okay.
And yeah, the teacher was the hero here. And he organized this strategy to get a psychiatrist posing as a career advisor. Because you know, when you go for your career advising session, they ask like, oh, what's your personality like? So what are you passionate about? What do you want to do in life? But it was actually a psychiatrist.
Oh, and he was at that age where he sort of had to get into high school?
He was 14. They have a different system in England. It's confusing. Let's not get into it. But yeah, high school.
High school age.
Yeah, 14.
So it made sense why someone would counsel him.
Yes, that's why he didn't ask any question. So while he was doing this, they also contacted the police and he was arrested.
Okay.
Apparently. Yeah, so he was arrested the first time when he was 14. They found a lot of vials of thallium and antimony, and he confessed attempting to murder his father, sister, and friends. He didn't say anything about
his mom? Oh,
yeah,
God.
So he was convicted of malicious administration of a noxious thing to inflict grievous bodily harm, and he was admitted to the Broadmoor Mental Hospital, where only people with mental disorders that committed crimes were admitted.
Dude, can you imagine? So
he was the youngest one there.
Your little Timmy, he was doing a lot of crazy shit. And then one day at 14, he's arrested. And he confesses that he tried to kill you. Little Timmy.
Yeah, the dad didn't want to hear or see him at this point. He just didn't want to know anything about him.
I wouldn't blame him. The dad actually sounds like a half-decent dude.
So he was diagnosed by 2 psychiatrists of personality disorder and schizophrenia.
Oh, so he actually had something very wrong. So he was medicated?
I'm guessing, but later on, he gets discarded, saying that the actual psychiatrist at the mental hospital said that he was cured, so he was released. So let me tell you, okay? So the hospital order actually suggested he should be detained for at least 15 years, but the Secretary of State, which I don't know why he was involved, maybe because he was underage, said that if someone was found sane, they shouldn't be sentenced for no more than 7 or 8 years. So after 9 years, he was deemed fully recovered, quote unquote, and released.
I see.
So he was oh my God, I just don't understand. It was not even that long ago. It was in the
I get it. It does make sense because he was a minor and you do expect them to respond, I don't know, maybe faster to the treatment.
But you can't treat schizophrenia and personality disorder.
You do. Well, you can treat them. You can medicate them and make sure that they are taking their medication and they are functional. You can be functional with both.
But you need to still be on
schizophrenia and
constant medication. You don't just cure something, right? It's a condition.
Yes, but you get released and you just have to take your medication. And most people do. It's not an issue.
Yeah, because he, like the Home Secretary, said that Graham is, and I quote, is no longer obsessed with poisons, violence and mischief. So he was, he got better, right? Wrong.
Shit. It might have also been a vanity project for someone at the hospital. Like, oh, look at me, I cured this kid that had this very severe issue.
And the fact that he was the youngest there. So they were like, oh.
Which really sucks, because I do think there was something else wrong with him. It's not just that there are plenty of people that have schizophrenia and have personality disorder, and
they're not murderers.
Right. They don't go around killing people. There was something very odd about him. He sort of had it in his, like, maybe this isn't the smartest way to say it, but he was sort of born with some of it. Because, yeah, he did it since he was so young. He was a kid.
10.
And he had zero compassion for anyone, for his family. You would think that he had someone he cared for.
Well, his aunt. I mean, his aunt wasn't poisoned, and uncle. They were fine.
Yeah, but maybe he didn't have that much access to them.
So when he was released, he was 23. Still young.
Right.
So young still. Thing is, he was like, everyone was like, oh yeah, he's cured. He's much better. He doesn't mention anything. So.
But wait.
It was actually.
One question. At this time, there wasn't a link between him poisoning his family and his stepmom dying?
No. Because the doctor said it was the disc, the cervix disc, whatever, and she was cremated.
Poor woman.
So they couldn't even prove anything. So during his stay at the mental hospital, he was actually getting better and better in poisoning, and he was actually experimenting on staff and other patients there.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he was getting better.
What? How did they let him out? Weren't people having issues in there? Especially the staff. Because you would expect them to not take their patients as seriously. But the staff?
When he found out he was going to be released sooner because of quote-unquote good behavior, he actually told a nurse that when he got released, he was going to kill one person for each year of his imprisonment. And the nurse took this, put this on his file. And the people that were like overseeing the release didn't make any comment on it. They saw it and they were like, nah, he's joking.
Oh my God.
Do you understand? So the nurse was like, he told that to a nurse and she was like, okay, buddy, let me just note this down.
Jesus Christ.
And then no one actually believed that he was being serious about it. He also, while he was in prison in the hospital, he attempted.
Yeah, people must have had ulterior motives.
Like politics.
Yeah, there was someone was getting paid some money, or it was seen as very
like a publicity stunt, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone gained something from this.
Yeah, from probably the Home Secretary, because he was involved in this for some reason.
Or maybe they just didn't give a shit. Though I don't know. I think you go through all those years of medical training. You deal with patients every day.
But then again, if it's a corrupt system, no matter how much you want to do good and still think that this person needs to continue their treatment, if someone squeezes your wrist, that we're not doing that, write something else in the file, they will, because it's their job on the line. Like, that's the environment they're in, if it's corrupt. He attempted mass poisoning in the hospital by...
Jesus Christ.
He was trying to mess with the tea urn. So they had this big urn where they were making tea for all the staff and probably all the patients. He wanted to poison that, obviously. He didn't. I think he tried, but it was discovered or something. That's it. They don't go further into detail on that. Because, again, that would have been a big red flag, but maybe that was in the beginning. And then after he got discovered, he was like, I'm going to lay low.
Yeah, but I don't know, still. You try to kill everyone in the staff.
I don't understand him. So at this point, he's out of prison. He's prison/mental hospital. It was a prison for mental patients. He was 23. His dad didn't want to speak to him or hear about him, but his sister was actually like quite understanding, and he was compassionate and wanted to try to help him because she knew he needed help, and she thought that maybe his condition was making him probably do all these things.
I'm already worried about her.
Yeah. So he got out, and he was crazy. He used to visit the places of previous crimes.
Previous crimes? What was he visiting? His old house?
Old school, probably. Old house, old school, where he poisoned people and where he caused people to be ill. And he loves getting a reaction from neighbors. You know, I was the one that did this crime. And if he showed up and people would be like, you know, fearful.
He liked that.
He liked that. He liked to scare people.
Oh.
He liked having this reputation. I think maybe it was because of the attention and because he was this known person. He thought he was important enough for everyone to know about him. That's why, like, he just needed attention, basically. Maybe that's why he was doing it.
Yeah, he wasn't taking his medication. I don't think so.
Probably not, obviously. In 1971... he's 24. He's hired at this company that manufactures infrared lenses used for military equipment. And they were using the toxin known as thallium that he used to use, but he couldn't get his little dirty hands on it. So he was like, oh, damn it. I got hired at this and I can't even get the fucking chemicals. So he went and tricked another chemist in London. Because he, again...
But how?
I don't fucking know. He had a lot of knowledge about chemicals. And back in the 60s...
he would probably say, I work for these people that make this type of lenses.
Yeah.
I needed to do whatever thing.
Yeah. And so when he got hired, the manager knew that he was in a mental institution, but that's it. No further than that. And why he was imprisoned.
Right, because it probably showed up on his record.
And his probation officer never checked on him. Never. Not his work, not his house. They were like, yeah, whatever. He's good.
Man, this is a tragedy because I feel like there were so many times that...
so many bad decisions that could have been prevented.
He could have been stopped.
He then started his poisoning spree at work because he was the one in charge of making tea and coffee. He, you guessed, was poisoning his colleagues' teas. And because so many people were getting sick at work, it was mistaken with a bug. And also because the symptoms were very similar with a bug that was going on in a school. So they're like, oh, it's the bug that they're dealing with in that school over there. So they didn't look into it any further.
Wait, a bug?
A stomach bug. So, you know when you get like...
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, yeah, not a bug.
I thought it was like this tiny little bug that was going around school. The town.
In England, they have this, they say, oh, I've got a bug, like a stomach bug is upsetting my tummy.
Right.
Yeah.
I was very confused for a second
sorry.
there.
I didn't realize, I'm sorry. Later on, his manager, well, not that later on, soon after, his manager, Bob Eagle, ended up dying. And seven of his co-workers got really ill. And then another one, Fred Biggs, he was an employee at the company, died a very long and painful death because of his poisoning. So he was, again, experimenting on everyone at work.
My God.
It's just horrible. Like, during his stay at that company, 70 complaints were made.
About him?
No complaints. No, complaints is the wrong word. 70 employees recorded symptoms. So 70 employees came forward to say that, oh, we've got these symptoms.
Oh, I see.
Because of his poisoning, but it wasn't known at the time. So the director did absolutely everything that he could to make sure there wasn't any chemical poisoning from the actual factory. So, like, all the safety measures were
right. How wasn't anyone suspicious? Not of him.
No, they did. They did a lot of investigations. And he was like, I'm really confused. I don't know what to tell you. We're taking all the precautions needed. Everyone is being safe. I don't understand why people keep getting sick. And at this point, again, he's being a dumbass. Every time he's getting caught, it's because of his own, because he's being an idiot. So I think he was probably getting frustrated at the fact that no one was like finding him and discovering that he's the one behind this, maybe because he started blabbing. He was like, oh, you're taking all these safety precautions, but have you tried to consider the possibility of thallium poisoning?
What?
And the manager was like, where the fuck is this coming from? How do you know about thallium?
Oh my god.
And he was like, he started talking to him and telling him all this like knowledge
oh my god.
about toxins. And he just went into detail, which made the manager extra fucking suspicious. He's like,
dude, what the hell?
He's like, tell me more. Tell me more. I'm already suspecting you now. Tell me more.
He was like, oh, you're taking all these precautions, but have you ever considered that I might be the one that was poisoning people? You never thought about that, did you, Mr. Boss Man?
Oh, he's literally... And the manager contacted the police, obviously.
Of course he did. He wasn't that fucking dense.
So he was arrested in 1971, and the police found a shit ton of vials of 4 types of poison this time, as well as the diary that is very known about where he would keep track of...
Oh, right. Oh, that was everything they needed.
Yeah, to incriminate him.
My god. Oh, so they could prove that he poisoned his stepmom now because they had the diary.
Yes, but I don't know if it's the same diary or if he was, because this is much later on and he's been incarcerated and maybe he lost the initial notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
But he would also decide in this diary who he was gonna kill or who he was gonna let live.
Wait a second.
What?
So he wasn't, wait a minute, he wasn't testing the poisons on those people in order to find out what the dose that would kill them
Probably, yeah.
was.
Yeah. So he was like, oh, at this quantity, he reacted really badly. He almost died. So if I give him more, he's gonna die. Do I give him more or do I let him live? Kind of. That's what I'm thinking.
Wait a minute. So he was just, I get that. Like he was deciding who would get a bigger dose. But he also continued to poison everyone. Okay, so my question is, why? Like, what was he must have just found pleasure in
being in control.
In the act of poisoning.
Maybe.
Not just so I killed some people.
Yeah.
Or I just made them ill.
Maybe he was like, oh, you're getting ill. Yeah, I can see you're getting ill and I'm the only one that knows why and I'm in control of your life.
But it wasn't even that because he was pissed off that nobody was finding out that he was behind everything.
Well, it wasn't said that he was pissed off that no one was finding out. This is what I deducted because he loved attention.
He was at least impatient because he started blabbering about how, maybe I'm the one who's poisoning everyone.
Did see one article that mentioned that he might have been on the autism spectrum. I didn't want to give it a lot of credit because you can't, the spectrum is very vast and he wasn't officially diagnosed. Probably people that looked into him later put him on the spectrum. Like, he kind of had... When
they knew what to look for.
Maybe. And maybe because that's one thing, like not oversharing, but this is what I saw in one JCS criminal psychology episode when...
I see.
One murderer, he was autistic and he the way the police guy was asking him was like, did you kill this person? He was like, yes sir, I did. How did you kill this person?
I know that guy.
He would just literally plainly respond to questions. He didn't have any undermining secret way of I'm gonna tell you but lie to you and send you somewhere else. It was literally plain, like...
Yeah.
But that was just one article, so that's why I didn't want to go into it. So maybe the blabbing thing was the fact that he was just literally just talking about it, not actually thinking what his words would mean.
Oh, see, I thought of it that, you know that there are serial killers like the Zodiac or BTK who started writing letters to the police and they would give information out in order to sort of the same thing. They really wanted attention.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be known that they were responsible for those murders. Some criminals are annoyed and angered when other criminals confess they murdered.
Maybe it was a case of not even confessing to the poisonings. It was just like, oh, look how much knowledge I have about chemicals and toxins at that point. You know, he was like, have you actually considered this, and this? And he was like, okay. Where is this coming from?
Right. That's a good theory.
You know, he wanted to show like he was smart.
Yeah, he was just complimenting himself.
Yes.
How would you call him?
Blowing his own horn?
Yeah, he was doing that.
And this one was the very first recorded case of thallium poisoning on purpose. So thallium poisoning has been happening by accident from factories and that, but this was the only one. Because thallium is rock. So it's not like you can get poisoned by whatever. You need to extract it, I think. He confessed verbally that he poisoned all those people, but when it came to signing a document, he didn't want to sign anything that would prove like it was an admission of guilt. He would just say. So it was more for, yeah, I did those things. But when it came down to actually convicting him, he was like, no, I'm not signing that. So he was trialed in St. Albans Crown Court for 10 days. And during his trial, he absolutely loved the media attention. And he was trying really hard to come across as scary and scare the jury. So he wasn't really doing himself any favors.
He was one of those.
He looked pretty creepy.
So wait, he killed, 4 people in total?
In total, yeah. So it's 3 that it's 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 2 counts of administering poisoning.
I'm sorry, all those people died because he was poisoning them. How is it different? Oh, maybe they didn't have enough evidence.
Yeah, same with the stepmom.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He couldn't get convicted for that. He admitted to it, but they couldn't physically convict it. Oh my god. So when he was given, during his trial, he was given the nickname of the teacup poisoner. He actually didn't like it. He said, it's belittling me. Why? Because of the word teacup? Is it too cute for you? And he was like, I actually prefer to be named World Poisoner.
Oh, fuck off.
Fuck right off. Yeah, and when he was asked if he felt any remorse...
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I don't want to interrupt you. The same thing, because I mentioned BTK earlier, writing letters. BTK is an abbreviation from bondage, something else, and kill. And he actually gave himself that name.
Oh my god.
He gave the police options.
Oh my god.
And all of them were this really fucking lame ass names.
That is ridiculous. You don't get to choose your fucking name.
Yeah. Please call me the night seductor.
Oh my god.
Dude.
They really are living in their own fucking world.
You do have to take into account that must have taken pleasure in, because we give, not anymore, but in the 70s and the 80s, they gave serial killers all these names that might sound cool. And he wanted one for himself. So maybe Graham's problem was the same. He wanted a really badass name. Fuck off, Graham. Fuck off.
Well, no, I can't empathize, and I don't want to empathize. I'm just trying to find... Again, I find these cases really interesting as a form of, is it nature or nurture kind of thing?
I think in this guy's case, it was definitely both.
Both.
Maybe even a little more nature than nurture.
Because he said that when he was asked about if he feels sad or if he feels any remorse about the killings, he said, I quote, "What I feel is the emptiness of my soul," end quote. So it's like he's obviously detached completely and he doesn't feel anything. But like, what triggered it? Was it like literal childhood trauma?
But what trauma? You had to live with your parents and not your relatives? I feel like that's so... I get it, you know, because it can be... I'm getting agitated. It can be very striking for young children to, oh, I was living in this sort of environment and I felt very comfortable in it, and now I have to live in a completely different environment. So I get that you would have certain, trauma from it. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe it's just not mentioned at all.
Maybe like, obviously we don't know all his life and
But he didn't have, from what we do have, he didn't have, like sort of any abuse or neglect even.
Like even his sister, what did his sister do to him? That's where I go, wait, okay, it's not anything like that, because he was poisoning everyone, and okay, let's say the parents, the dad and stepmom, maybe didn't give him the love, but like, what did the sister do? Which was... Yeah. She was the same age as him, close to his age anyway.
Yeah, obviously she was a kid as well.
Yeah. There was a film based on him and his little notebook, which I was kind of like, okay, it was like a dark comedy one. I'm like, okay.
Oh, I think I know that one. But it's not based on him. It's just inspired, isn't it?
It's inspired, but it's literally by...
I'm okay with inspiration. Wait, did they use his name in the film? I don't think so.
Yes, Young.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about it. Because I think you can get inspiration from real life events.
Yeah, but don't make a dark comedy about murder.
Well,
I don't know. I feel like...
Are you gonna make about a poisoner? And I kind of want to watch it now. Though it does feel sleazy that they used... if they used his name and victims' names, it does feel a little bit sleazy.
I don't know about the victims' names, but I know they use his name. And, which is worse, is that a Japanese schoolgirl saw this film in the 1996, and she started poisoning her mom.
Oh no!
Yeah, she started poisoning her mom with thallium.
No!
And she said she was, quote, inspired by Young, end quote. And she kept a blog very similar to Graham's diary of dosages and reactions.
I was interested in the film. Never mind.
That's the end of the teacup poisoner story.
Don't poison your parents. What a weird guy. Greatest understatement of the century.
Yeah, I was weirded out before, but now that you've pointed out all those things that didn't really make sense that we know of.
Because maybe in the future we might be able to explain this type of behavior a lot better.
This was an interesting talk. I always find it interesting as a case study and just learning about human behavior and, again, the nature and nurture thing. Because a lot of the times I still don't know what to believe, if it's 100% nature or 100% nurture. I definitely don't think it's 100% nature. I don't think people are born evil.
Obviously.
I think a lot of maybe they're not wired correctly from a mental point of view, as well as being brought up in the wrong circumstances and environment. That contributes a lot. I mean, even for a sane person, even like being medically sane and, how do I like to say it, wired correctly, you grow up in an environment that's very disadvantaged, and it just affects you mentally and affects your life in the future. So combine that with being wired wrong, it's even worse. Because if you're wired wrong, but then you're raised in the right environment for you, I think you can grow up to be...
I believe the same thing. I think that if you have a strong support system and a good environment, even if you have certain issues that you were born with, I think your upbringing can diminish them, even up to the point where they're rendered unimportant. You can definitely end up a good person. I also found this talk very, very interesting because we found people at sort of opposite ends of the spectrum. They would both obviously poison people. The episode's about poisoners, but based on very different reasons.
Locusta was only doing it for money.
Yeah.
When Graham over here was doing it for pleasure. Would you say pleasure?
Well, to be fair, because I did think about it a little bit after finishing writing it, but however, I do think that it had to have a component of pleasure, enjoyment. I don't know. I don't think you can poison people just for money. Think me naive, but I personally would have an issue with poisoning people.
It takes a detached type of person to do things like this.
I do think that they have certain things in common, but they are so different in how they acted and what their primary motivations were.
And environment.
That's true. Thank you for listening to our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did. We were very interested in the subject, and we hoped we stayed on track and stayed on topic. And thank you for listening.
And just again, as a disclaimer, these were all researched online. The articles will be available in the descriptions, and you can read and draw your own conclusions. We have kind of approached like there you are, the facts and what we know, and then we discuss and come to a conclusion ourselves, which doesn't mean that is the truth and absolute truth. You can come to your own conclusion. These are all just made for an interesting topic of discussion between each other. So, yeah, thank you. Bye!
Bye!